Let's take a look at effects. So for the purposes of this, I'm going to go and close my parameter table here. I'm going to minimize that. And I'm actually going to go and open the effects editor. So the effects editor, this is where you can actually go in and create a new effect from scratch or edit an existing effect. So if I were to go and say add effect, you'll see here we've got 7 different effect engines that we can actually use. So we've got things in there such as just a simple chase, varying through to a matrix or a paint box. So there's all sorts of different types of effects that you can create on Neo. But for the purposes of this video, we're actually going to keep things simple because we're just going to use some of the automatic effects. So I'm going to go and minimize this window. And I'm then going to go and open the library. So we were in the editor. I'm going to go and open the effects library. And this gives us access to some default effects that are available for every show. I haven't created these effects. These are actually just in a fresh console. And you can see that the effects library window, it's broken up into tabs. Each tab gives us access to the different types of these default effects that are available. Intensity effects, color effects, and position effects. So let's take a look at some of these now. For the purpose of this, I will go and open my visualizer window. And I'm then going to just go and say 1 through at. So 1 through, that's 1 through to the last of that type. At is a shortcut for setting those fixtures on. Now we've got those on, I'm going to go and apply an effect, and I'm actually going to go and apply a sine effect, a sine wave effect. And that's going to start to run. We've applied that a little bit like how you would apply a palette to those fixtures. Now we've got the effect running, you'll notice your encoder wheels actually allow you to start to edit that effect and adjust it slightly. I'm actually going to go and click the controls button here. That will open those exact same effect controls on my console here for me. Worth mentioning, if you aren't using the fixture library that often, you can actually access it from the drop-down menu here. You don't need to access it as a window if you don't want. You can just access it temporarily from the drop-down. So once we've got an effect running, let's take a look. Well, first of all, we can see we've got a play icon on the effect that is running to show us what's going on. And then we've got these encoders here. The first of which is length. Now the length is actually going to adjust the speed of the effect because the length is saying, well, how long do you want a single loop of this effect to take? So at the moment it's taking 5 seconds, so i.e. it's taking 5 seconds to loop once and then it starts again. But of course I can increase that to 10, so I'm actually increasing the length of that effect. I'm doubling it. Or I can reduce that right the way down. And if I reduce that right the way down, you'll see that my effect is now going to run much quicker. I'm just going to go and click my button here. That will set the effect back to the defaults that are included in these default effects, just setting those levels back to the default levels. The next control is offset. Well, the offset is the low value or start position, if you like, of the effect. And it's a value in DMX, so it's a 0.255 value. So that means if I go and set that to a value of something like 128-ish, well, that's going to be then taking my fixtures from half to full, because the offset is the essentially base level, the low value. So if we've got that set to 50, the fixtures go from 50 upwards. Now, all of this logic, it applies to color effects, movement effects, iris and zoom effects as well. But for this, I'm just using some intensity effects to keep things simple. I'm going to go and set that back to 0 so that I can click my default button to do that. And then we've got scale. Well, scale is kind of the opposite of that. The scale is the high value or the end point of the effect, if you like. And again, it's a value in DMX. So if I go and reduce that, you'll see now that my fixtures can only come on up to a high value of about 34. You can see there we've got the value in percent. So Again, we can then reduce the scale to actually reduce what value my fixtures can go up to. So I'm going to go and set that to 60, and you can see my fixtures can then go up to 60. Stagger, well, stagger allows you to add delay to each fixture. If I go and set the stagger to 0, you can see all fixtures are coming on and off together. They are essentially one big group. There's no stagger present. But as I go and increase the stagger slightly, you'll see there that's when you can start to get a ripple showing across the fixtures. And you can just increase that stagger until you're happy. The default is auto, i.e. meaning the stagger level is the one automatically associated with that effect. We can also use cluster. That allows you to essentially start to group your lights together. At the moment, each light is individual. It's following on just after each light. But I'm going to go and say stop all, and I'm going to go and choose a square wave effect. Reason for that is it's going to just show us this a little bit easier. I'm going to increase the length to slow it down so that we can see things happening easier. And I'm going to go and set the cluster now to 2. And if you do that, you can see there that now we've got pairs of lights following on after each other, rather than each individual light. So it can make your effects much more interesting. It's not just each individual light following on after each other. You can actually start to buddy lights up together so that they're coming on and off together. So I'm happy with that effect, and I actually want to go and record that now into a cue. So I'm going to go into my sidebar, I'm going to go to my current playback, and it's very important to be aware of, you have your effects toggle. By default that should be yellow, meaning that effects will get included in your cues, but if you have turned that off and you record a cue, effects that might be running actually won't be getting included. So you might want to just glance at that to make sure that is set. But once it is, we can record this cue. So I'm going to keep things simple, and I'm just going to double hit record, and that's then going to record this as the next available cue. And we can see there that it's recorded cue number 14, because that was the next available cue I had. What else can we see? Well, we can see that we've got an effects flag. The number you see in there is actually automatically given by Neo. So that number there has added your effect that you had running to the console's internal effect library, or effect list if you like. And it's given it a number when it's done that process, an ID if you like, and it's therefore showing the ID that Neo has given to your effect in the window here, and it's just giving you that information that there will be an effect running. We can also see that our effect is indeed running, and we can see that we have a grey background with the white level running through to show our fixtures there. And we can also see that we've got a new Cue Effects tab. If we go into there, we can see, there we go, effect ID number 14 is running because of Q14. It's telling us that it's a intensity effect, and it's also showing us that length there. That length is going to count up to the length that we actually set, and then it's going to loop back to the beginning and start again. But you will see that is a handy button that you can use to just stop this effect whilst this cue is running if you wish to. And that's important to be aware of, because if I were to go and record another cue right now, if I were to go and say, for example, what should we do? Let's do 11 through 14 at 20. If I were to go and set those fixtures to 20%, well, we can see the effect, of course, is still running. So if I go and record this as the next available cue now, well, our effects is still present. We haven't told it to turn off. So if I do now want my effect to turn off, I can just go to the Cue Effects tab, click stop. I might want to make another change to my levels, so I might want to actually go and say that I want 1 through 6 to go to 50%. And then I can record this as my next cue, record. And this time, there we go, the effect has now disappeared. The effect flag has disappeared because we told the effect to stop running. So once we've done that there, we've recorded our effects into our cues. I'm just going to go minimise the effects library here and go and open the effects editor again. And in the effects editor, you can see here cue 14. There is our effect that is running in the cue. So if you go to the effects editor, and you can see in here that it is added to your list, and you can see in here information about it, such as the profile. So that's our square flashing on and off we saw happening. You can see how long it's going to take. You can actually start to go in here now and make changes to this, and you can even change what fixtures are being used as well by going in and editing in this field here. So that's a quick look at auto effects and how we can add those into cues. By no means have we covered everything about effects on Neo. We've only just looked at a small part. We've only scratched the surface, really.